The lights in the Family Feud studio were bright and hot. Jessica Torres stood at her podium, her palms sweating, her heart pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. She was 24 years old, standing on national television, playing a game show. But this wasn't just entertainment. This was survival. The prize money could change everything. It could mean security, stability, a real future for her children. Steve Harvey stood center stage, his presence commanding but warm. He had that gift of making everyone feel comfortable, even under studio lights with cameras rolling and millions watching. "All right, Jessica," Steve said with his signature smile. "Before we start this round, I'm going to ask you something personal, something real, and I want you to answer from your heart, not from your head." Jessica nodded, her throat tight. Behind the cameras, in the audience section reserved for contestants' families, her Aunt Rosa sat with Jessica's two children. Maya, age 5, wearing her favorite purple dress that Jessica had found at a thrift store and carefully mended. Carlos, age 3, holding a stuffed elephant he'd had since he was a baby, the only toy that had survived their hardest times. They waved at their mama, and Jessica waved back, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Jessica," Steve continued, his voice dropping to a more intimate tone that somehow carried through the entire studio. "What keeps you going when things are hard? What's the one thing that makes you fight when everything seems impossible?" The question hit Jessica like a physical force. She looked down at Maya and Carlos, who were looking up at her with complete trust, complete love, completely unaware of how close they'd come to losing everything. When she looked back at Steve, her voice was clear but soft. "My children's laughter." The answer wasn't on any board. It didn't need to be. Steve set down his cards slowly. The studio fell into that curious silence, that rare moment when something unscripted and real cuts through the planned entertainment. "Your children's laughter," Steve repeated, studying Jessica's face. "Tell me about that." Jessica's hands trembled slightly as she spoke, her voice growing stronger even as tears began to form. "There were times when I didn't know how we'd make it. Times when I had absolutely nothing. No money, no home, no help from anyone. But my babies would laugh. They'd find joy in the smallest things. A flower growing through concrete, a butterfly landing on our car window, a song on the radio. And their laughter reminded me why I had to keep going, why giving up wasn't an option." Steve's expression changed completely, the game show host persona falling away to reveal genuine emotion. "Jessica, when you say you had nothing, what do you mean?" Jessica hesitated. She could feel her Aunt Rosa watching from the audience, her silent plea, "Don't say it. Don't tell them." But Jessica was tired of hiding, tired of pretending. "I mean, I had nothing. For 2 years, my children and I lived in my car. We were homeless. I was 22 years old with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I had nowhere to go. No family helping me, no safety net. Just me and them and a 15-year-old car that barely ran." The studio gasped audibly. Steve's face showed shock and pain. "You were homeless? With 2 babies?" Jessica nodded, tears now flowing freely. "Yes, sir. I'd park in different places every night, so no one would notice us. Walmart parking lots because they're well lit and safe. Church parking lots on Sundays. Sometimes rest stops on the highway when I could afford the gas. I'd wake up before dawn every single morning so no one would see us sleeping in the car. I couldn't risk anyone calling the police or child services." Her voice broke, but she pushed through. "I'd take them to the McDonald's bathroom to wash up, get them dressed in the car while it was still dark, feed them whatever I could afford, usually cereal or crackers or whatever was cheapest. Then I'd drop Maya at the preschool program and take Carlos to a free daycare program. And I'd pray every day that no one would figure out we were homeless." "What about you?" Steve asked gently. "Where did you go during the day?" "I worked," Jessica said. "I had a job at a diner, minimum wage plus tips. I'd work my shift, sometimes pulling doubles when I could get them. I'd pick up the kids in the evening, and we'd go to the library. I made it into an adventure. We'd read books together, use the computers, color pictures, stay until closing time at 8 p.m. The librarians were so kind. They never asked questions, but I think some of them knew." She wiped her tears with shaking hands. "Then we'd drive to wherever we were sleeping that night. I'd tell them stories until they fell asleep in the back seat. I'd arranged blankets and pillows to make it as comfortable as possible, and I'd sit in the front seat, watching them sleep, listening to them breathe, praying for just one more day to figure something out, one more day to keep them safe. And nobody knew? Steve asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I made absolutely sure nobody knew, Jessica said firmly. I was terrified they'd take my babies away. I kept us clean, kept them fed, even if it meant I didn't eat for days. Kept them in clean clothes, even if it meant washing everything by hand, in gas station bathrooms at 3 a.m. I made sure they always looked cared for, made sure they thought it was all an adventure, a game. They never knew how scared I was. They never knew that sometimes I'd cry silently in that front seat after they fell asleep, wondering how much longer I could keep this up. How did you even end up in that situation? Steve asked. How does a 22-year-old mother end up homeless with 2 children? Jessica took a shaky breath, years of shame and pain coming out in her words. I got pregnant at 17. The father left before Maya was born, just disappeared. I was living with my parents, working part-time, going to community college when I could, trying to build a life. Then I got pregnant again at 20, different father, who also left as soon as he found out. My parents are very religious, very strict. They said I'd made my choices and I had to live with the consequences. They kicked me out when Carlos was 3 months old. She looked at her Aunt Rosa in the audience. I moved in with my Aunt Rosa. She took us in, gave us a room, helped with the babies. But she was struggling too. Her husband had just left her. She had her own 2 kids to support. She was working 2 jobs just to keep her apartment. After 6 months, she lost her job because of the economy, lost her apartment. She and her kids had to move in with her sister, and there just wasn't room for all of us. So, you lived in your car, Steve said quietly. I had no other options, Jessica confirmed. No other family to turn to, no friends who could take in a young mother with 2 babies. Shelter waiting lists were months long, and I'd heard stories about shelters, about violence, about families being separated, about children not being safe. I couldn't risk it, so I decided we'd stay together in my car until I could figure something out. Steve turned to address the studio audience, many of whom were crying openly. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to really understand what we're hearing. This young woman, at 22 years old, kept 2 babies safe, fed, clean, and happy, while living in a car for 2 years. 2 years. And her children never knew they were homeless. The audience erupted in applause, but Steve held up his hand. Jessica, what changed? How did you get out of that situation? Jessica's face softened slightly. A social worker at Maya's preschool. Her name was Ms. Chen. She started noticing things. Maya always wore the same 3 outfits in rotation, even though they were clean. She'd eat her snack at preschool and then eat everyone else's leftovers, like she was starving. I'd drop her off as early as they'd let me and pick her up as late as possible. Ms. Chen started watching. One day, she followed us, Jessica continued. She saw us getting into our car, saw that it was packed with all our belongings, saw where we drove to. That night, we were parked at a church, and she knocked on my car window. I thought my life was over. I thought she was going to call the police, call child services, take my babies. Jessica's voice broke with emotion. Instead, she handed me bags of food, brought blankets, baby wipes, diapers, and she said something I'll never forget. She said, "I'm not here to take your children. I'm here to help you keep them." She sat in my car for 2 hours that night, making calls, pulling strings, calling in favors. She got us into an emergency family shelter that same week, helped me apply for transitional housing, found me a better job with better hours. She literally saved us. Where are you now? Steve asked. We got our apartment 18 months ago, Jessica said, her voice filling with pride. It's tiny. Just 1 bedroom in a rough neighborhood. The kids share the bedroom. I sleep on the couch in the living room. But it's ours. We have a home. My children have real beds. We have a kitchen. We have food in the refrigerator. We have heat in the winter. We're safe. And we're together. And you came on this show because? Steve prompted. Because the prize money could change our lives, Jessica said honestly. It could mean Maya can take dance classes like she dreams about. Carlos can do t-ball in the spring. It could mean I don't have to choose between buying groceries and buying them new shoes when they grow out of the old ones. It could mean building an emergency fund so we never ever end up back in that car. It could mean security, real security. Steve Harvey walked over to Jessica, took both her hands in his, looking directly into her eyes. Jessica Torres, you are one of the strongest human beings I have ever met in my entire life. Your children are blessed beyond measure to have you as their mother. He turned to face the audience. We need to do something about this. Right now. Today. What happened next would become one of the most viral moments in television history. Steve Harvey announced he was personally giving Jessica a check for $25,000 from his own foundation. The studio audience erupted in applause and tears. But he wasn't done. Not even close. Jessica, I know people. I know organizations. I'm gonna make absolutely sure you and your babies have what you need. Within minutes, Steve was on his phone, live on television, calling contacts. A local childcare center owner, watching from home, called the studio directly to offer Jessica a full-time position with better pay and benefits. A furniture company offered to fully furnish their apartment. A clothing store offered $5,000 in gift cards. A car dealership offered a reliable vehicle. But the most powerful moment, the moment that would be replayed millions of times, came when Steve Harvey knelt down to speak directly with Maya and Carlos. The cameras zoomed in as he got to their eye level. Your mama is a superhero, he told them, his voice gentle but clear. She kept you safe when things were really, really hard. And you know what she told me kept her going through all of it? Your laughter. She said hearing you laugh made her strong enough to keep fighting. So I want you to promise me something important. I want you to keep laughing. Keep finding joy in life. Because that laughter, it didn't just make you happy. It saved your mama's life. Maya, wise beyond her 5 years, looked at Steve with serious eyes. We laugh because Mama makes everything fun, she said innocently. Even when we lived in the car, she made it an adventure. She told us stories about camping and exploring. She made it okay. The studio fell completely silent. Maya had said it so innocently, not realizing she'd just confirmed the full extent of what they'd endured. Carlos added, hugging his elephant, I liked sleeping in the car. Mama told the best stories. She made shadow puppets on the ceiling, and we'd sing songs. Jessica broke down completely then, sobbing as she realized her children had known, at least on some level. They'd known what was happening, and they'd trusted her anyway. They'd known, and they'd stayed happy because she'd made them feel safe and loved. Steve Harvey, a man who'd been in entertainment for decades and seen everything, wept openly on camera, not caring who saw. The episode aired 3 weeks later. Within 24 hours, Jessica's story had been viewed over 30 million times online. The clips went viral across every social media platform. A GoFundMe started by viewers raised over $200,000 in just 5 days. Job offers poured in from across the country. Housing assistance programs contacted her. Childcare vouchers, clothing donations. But more importantly, her story changed the national conversation about homelessness, about single mothers, about the invisible poor who work full-time but still can't afford housing. Jessica used every dollar wisely. She paid off all her debt, bought a reliable car that wouldn't break down, put money into savings for emergencies and for her children's future education. She took the position at the childcare center, where her natural empathy and understanding of struggling families made her invaluable. She worked hard, took classes online, worked her way up to assistant director within 3 years. 5 years after that Family Feud appearance, Jessica opened her own small childcare center focused specifically on helping low-income and homeless families. She hired other single mothers, women who'd been where she was, giving them the chance she'd once desperately needed. She created flexible hours, provided meals, offered support services. She named it Laughter First Childcare, after the answer she'd given Steve Harvey that day, after the sound that had kept her alive during the darkest period of her life. Today, Maya is 10 years old, thriving in school, an A student with dreams of becoming a teacher just like Ms. Chen. She takes dance classes 3 times a week. She has friends, sleepovers, birthday parties, a normal childhood. She doesn't remember living in the car, not really. The memories are hazy, dreamlike. Jessica made sure of that. Carlos is 8 in 3rd grade, playing soccer on a local team, talking about becoming a firefighter when he grows up. He has no memory of their homeless years at all. To him, it's just a story his mom sometimes tells. He knows it was real, but it doesn't feel real to him. That's exactly what Jessica wanted. Jessica still works incredibly hard, still saves every penny she can, still lives with a lingering fear that it could all disappear, that security is temporary, that she's one bad break away from losing everything again. But she also lives with hope now, with confidence, with the knowledge that she survived what should have been impossible. And most importantly, she lives every day with the sound of her children's laughter, the same sound that saved her life when she had nothing else left. Steve Harvey keeps a framed photo from that day in his home office. It shows Jessica with Maya and Carlos, all three smiling through tears, Steve's arms around all of them. The caption reads, "This is what real strength looks like." He said in multiple interviews that Jessica taught him something profound about parenting, about sacrifice, about the incredible power of love to overcome impossible circumstances. Share and subscribe, because Jessica Torres' story isn't just about surviving homelessness. It's about the fierce, unbreakable love of a mother who refused to let circumstances define her children's childhood. It's about finding strength in the sound of laughter when you have every reason to cry. It's about a young woman who faced impossible odds and won through sheer determination, creativity, and love. Jessica says now, when people call her an inspiration, when they stop her on the street or send her messages, "I'm not special. I'm just a mother who loves her children. I did what any mother would do." But that's where she's wrong. Not every mother could do what she did. Not everyone could maintain hope, maintain joy, maintain their children's sense of security and innocence while living in a car. Not everyone could hear their children's laughter and let it be enough to fight for one more day. The answer Jessica gave that day, "My children's laughter," wasn't on any Family Feud board, but it was perhaps the truest answer anyone could give about what keeps us going when we have nothing else. Because sometimes, when you've lost everything material, when you have no money, no home, no safety net, the sound of your children finding joy becomes more valuable than any amount of money, more powerful than any resource, more sustaining than any safety net society could ever provide. That's what Jessica knew instinctively. That's what she taught millions of viewers. And that's why her story will never be forgotten.